The mood around Rangers right now feels tense but quietly hopeful, and that mix is exactly what surrounds the club as attention shifts between what could happen in the transfer window and what absolutely must happen on the pitch this weekend. There is always that pull towards transfer talk because supporters naturally look for signs of change, signs of strength being added, especially when the season has already tested patience. One name doing the rounds is Pierre-Emerick, a powerful midfielder currently tied up in a complicated situation in France, and it is the kind of link that sparks debate straight away. Rangers fans know the type of player being described here, someone with size, presence, and the ability to impose himself physically, and that alone makes people sit up and take notice. Ekwa is not an unknown quantity in British football, and that matters. He has been around the game at a decent level, coming through strong academies and gaining experience in England before his move abroad. Watching him play, you see a midfielder who enjoys the battle, who is comfortable using his frame to shield the ball and break up play, but who is not clumsy or limited when the ball is at his feet. That balance is important, especially in Scotland, where matches are often decided by who wins the physical duels in midfield rather than who looks neat in possession. Rangers have lacked that edge at times, and it is not difficult to understand why the recruitment focus seems to be shifting in that direction. The complication, of course, is his contract situation. There is uncertainty over where he officially stands, with different interpretations of agreements and clauses following relegation and loans, and that kind of grey area always brings risk. Rangers would need to be careful, patient, and smart if they decide to push forward, because legal disputes can drag on and affect a player's readiness, sharpness, and mindset. The fact he has been training away from competitive matches raises questions about match fitness, especially in a league that demands intensity from the first whistle. Still, when clubs look at January targets, they often weigh risk against reward, and the profile of this player fits a very clear pattern. That pattern becomes more obvious when you look at the other names Rangers have been linked with recently. There is a clear preference emerging for taller, stronger, more athletic players who can cope with pressure, pace, and physical contact. The game has moved away from lightweight midfielders who recycle the ball neatly but struggle when pressed aggressively, and Scottish football in particular has always punished teams who lack steel. The idea now seems to be building a side that can compete physically first and then express itself technically rather than the other way around. For Rangers, that feels like a necessary correction rather than a trend being followed for fashion's sake. While the transfer talk simmers, the immediate focus is firmly on Sunday and the trip to Tynecastle. Going into this match as something close to underdogs feels strange for Rangers supporters, but the league table explains why that perception exists. Hearts are setting the pace, they are confident, and they will see this as an opportunity to underline their position. For Rangers, the pressure is different. Being written off slightly might actually help, taking some of the spotlight away and allowing the players to approach the game with a clearer head. That said, the reality does not change. 3 points are essential if the title race is to remain a serious conversation rather than an optimistic one. Talking about a title challenge at this stage might sound ambitious given the flaws that still exist in the squad, but there is a growing sense that the club hierarchy understands the need to act decisively. Reports suggest that the manager will be properly backed in January, and that message alone can lift confidence inside the dressing room. Players perform differently when they feel the club is moving forward rather than standing still. There is also a feeling that lessons have been learned from previous mistakes, particularly around recruitment and squad balance, and that makes this next window feel more important than most. The manager's influence is already visible in domestic competition. Results have stabilized, performances have become more controlled, and there is a clear structure to how Rangers are trying to play. The unbeaten run in the league tells its own story. Wins against sides that previously caused problems, draws that showed resilience rather than collapse, and a defensive record that, while not perfect, is noticeably improved. Clean sheets have returned, and even when mistakes happen, there is a sense of organization and recovery that was missing before. Defensively, Rangers are still a work in progress. European matches have exposed weaknesses, and there have been moments domestically where individual errors could have cost dearly. However, the overall trend is positive. The team is conceding fewer chances, protecting leads more effectively, and showing a willingness to fight for results when fluency is lacking. That is often the mark of good coaching, squeezing points out of imperfect performances while gradually raising standards. What stands out most, though, is the change in attitude. The players look engaged again. There is visible effort before, during, and after matches, a willingness to run, to press, to chase lost causes. That kind of buy-in cannot be faked, and it was clearly absent towards the end of previous managerial spells. When players stop responding, results inevitably follow, but right now the squad looks united behind the manager and his ideas. That alone gives Rangers a platform to build on. Coaching is often judged unfairly on individual moments, but over a run of games patterns emerge. Taking a squad that many believe is short on quality and turning it into a competitive, organized unit is not easy. Improving average players, making them reliable, disciplined, and effective within a system is a skill in itself. There are still limitations, and not every player will suddenly reach the required level, but the collective has improved, and that matters more than isolated brilliance at this stage of the season. Sunday's match will test all of that progress. Tynecastle is never a forgiving place, especially when the home side senses vulnerability. Rangers will need physical presence, concentration, and belief to get through it, qualities that link directly back to both the current form and the type of players being targeted for the future. Whether or not a deal like Equa ever materializes, the direction of travel is becoming clearer, and the coming weeks will show how far this team can push itself when the pressure rises again. Looking beyond the immediate challenge of the weekend, there is a wider sense that Rangers are standing at a crossroads in this season where decisions made now will shape not only results but identity. The discussion around physicality, intensity, and presence is not accidental, and it reflects an honest assessment of where the team has fallen short. Too often in recent months, Rangers have been second best in duels, slow to react to transitions and unable to impose themselves when matches became scrappy. And that is the kind of reality that forces a rethink. And it appears the coaching staff are no longer trying to force a style that does not suit the tools available. The league form under the current manager paints a picture of gradual but genuine progress. An unbeaten run across 8 matches, taking 20 points from a possible 24, is not something that can be brushed aside. It shows consistency, something Rangers have lacked, and consistency is what keeps you in touch at the top of the table. 15 goals scored in that period suggests there is still attacking threat, even if performances are not always flowing, and conceding only 4 goals speaks to improved organization and discipline. 5 clean sheets in that stretch underline that this team is starting to understand how to manage games rather than simply chasing them. Comparisons with earlier in the season are unavoidable. Defensive instability was one of the biggest concerns, with Rangers often looking vulnerable whenever they lost the ball. Opponents sensed fear and targeted it, pressing aggressively and forcing mistakes. Now, while errors still occur, they are less frequent and less chaotic. There is better spacing between the lines, more protection in front of the back four, and a goalkeeper who looks far more supported by the players in front of him. That collective responsibility is crucial, especially in a league where margins are often fine. The manager's public messaging has also been clever. Downplaying the idea that Sunday is a title-defining fixture is not a sign of weakness, but a way of managing pressure. By removing the label of a decisive moment, he allows players to focus on performance rather than consequence. Internally, everyone knows the importance of the match, but externally, the tone remains calm and controlled. That balance can make a real difference, particularly for a squad that has shown signs of fragility in high-pressure situations before. There is also a growing understanding that this season may be about building foundations as much as chasing immediate glory. That does not mean lowering standards, but it does mean accepting that progress is rarely linear. The current squad has limitations, and no amount of motivation can completely hide that. However, when players work harder, follow instructions, and fight for each other, results tend to improve. Rangers are not suddenly a flawless side, but they are becoming harder to beat, and that is often the first step towards something more substantial. The January transfer window looms large in all of this. Backing the manager properly will be a statement of intent, not just to supporters, but to the dressing room. Players want to know that the club believes in the direction it is taking. Bringing in individuals who fit the physical and mental profile being targeted could elevate the whole group. Competition for places sharpens standards, and even one or two additions in key areas can change the dynamic of a squad. Rangers do not need a complete overhaul, but they do need quality that raises the baseline. Attitude remains a central theme. One of the most damaging aspects of the previous regime was the visible loss of belief among players. Heads dropped quickly, body language was poor, and adversity was often met with resignation rather than resistance. That has shifted. There is now evidence of players digging in, making recovery runs, contesting second balls, and celebrating defensive actions with genuine passion. Those details matter, especially to supporters who judge effort as much as outcome. Not every individual has been transformed, and that is to be expected. Some players will always struggle to meet the demands of playing for Rangers, regardless of the coach. The key difference now is that the system seems to protect weaknesses better and maximize strengths where possible. Average players look functional rather than exposed, and functional players can win you league matches if the collective structure is sound. That is often overlooked in favor of flashy performances, but over a season, it is reliability that keeps you competitive. As Rangers edge closer to the top end of the table, the narrative naturally shifts, pressure increases, expectations rise, and every drop point feels heavier. How this group responds to that will define the next phase of the campaign. The trip to Hearts is a perfect example, a match against a confident opponent in a hostile environment where discipline and physical resilience will be tested. Perform well there, and belief will grow. Struggle and doubts will resurface just as quickly. What feels different now is that setbacks no longer seem terminal. There is a sense that the team can absorb a difficult result without falling apart, that the structure and leadership in place can steady things. That resilience has been missing for too long. Rangers supporters have endured swings between hope and frustration, often within the same match, but recent performances suggest a more stable trajectory. All of this feeds into a bigger picture about identity. Rangers at their best have always combined intensity, strength, and purpose with quality on the ball. When one of those elements disappears, the team loses its edge. The current direction appears to be about restoring that balance, ensuring that any technical quality is supported by physical dominance and mental toughness. Whether through coaching, recruitment, or sheer collective effort, the aim is clear. As the season moves deeper into its most demanding phase, clarity of purpose becomes vital. Rangers are not pretending to be something they are not, and that honesty might be their biggest strength right now. With momentum slowly building, players responding to guidance, and the promise of reinforcement on the horizon, there is a cautious optimism returning to the fan base, driven not by hype, but by tangible signs of progress on the pitch. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Ibrox has been humming with a different kind of noise, the sort that starts as a whisper and grows into a roar long before anything is made official. Around the ground, in the pubs and on the streets, one name keeps getting passed from mouth to mouth with a mix of disbelief and excitement: James Rodriguez. The idea that a global star of his stature could be on the verge of pulling on a Rangers shirt feels almost unreal, yet the signs, subtle and not so subtle, have set imaginations running wild. Sources close to the club hint that talks have been taking place quietly, away from the glare, with Rangers exploring what would be a statement move, not just for Scottish football, but for the European game as a whole. Rodriguez, known for his left foot, his vision, and that knack for moments that lift supporters out of their seats, is said to be intrigued by the prospect of Ibrox, its history, and its unforgiving passion. For a player who has lived under the brightest lights, the intensity of Glasgow may well be part of the attraction. Among the Rangers' support, the mood borders on carnival. Social media is awash with clips, old goals replayed as if they were scouting reports, while scarves and shirts are already being imagined with his name across the back. There is talk that the club see him not only as a creative force on the pitch, but as a figure who could inspire a dressing room and draw fresh eyes to the league. Of course, for now, it remains a rumor fueled by hope and a sense that something big might be brewing. Yet football has a habit of turning the unlikely into reality. If James Rodriguez were to walk out at Ibrox, the ground would not just welcome a player, but a symbol of ambition. Until then, the speculation rolls on, and the blue half of Glasgow allows itself to dream. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned